وبارك على نبينا وحبيبنا وقرة أعيننا محمد وعلى آله وصحبه أجمعين. So tonight, inshallah, the final sermon and the farewell Hajj that the Prophet ﷺ performed, and we will conclude, inshallah, his sermon in the first portion of this session, and then we'll go through the remainder of the hadith of Jabir ibn Abdullah radiallahu anhu and a few other ahadith that I think are worthy of narrating for you, just so that you get more of a flavor or a sense of what the Hajj that they performed with him alayhi salatu wasalam was like. And so it was a beautiful, beautiful time for all those who were there for it, and it stuck with them, which is why we have so many narrations from that timing, from his Hajj alayhi salatu wasalam, and what they experienced with him. And inshallah, we on Thursday, which is Arafah, isn't it? So Thursday, inshallah, we have a iftar, and I'll be giving I think a lecture, and we'll talk a little bit more. Like I'll focus kind of a little bit more on Arafah specifically and what he said and did during that time. And we may omit that today just so that I can do that then, because we'll barely get through the material. So his farewell sermon alayhi salatu wasalam, khutbat al-wada', that he offered during the days of Hajj. We know that he first gave it during the day of Arafah, as he stood in Namira, or on the Mount of Mercy. He gave the same khutbah, or similar to it, on the day of An-Nahr, because he prayed Eid alayhi salatu wasalam with the Sahaba, and he also gave that similar khutbah. And he would give it throughout Ayyam al-Tashriq, and Imam Ahmad points out that at least 3 times it was given. And alayhi salatu wasalam would choose paragraphs to share with people, but generally speaking, when the first part was repeated every time, and I think it's the main, it's a critical part of this khutbah, and it's probably the most important piece, where the Prophet ﷺ talks about the value of the human life and the sanctity of human well-being. That's the message. That's the theme of this first paragraph that we recited yesterday, where he's focusing ﷺ on the fact that yes, there are a lot of holy things in Islam. The Kaaba is a holy place, and Arafah is a holy day, and the Hajj is a holy month, and Mecca is a holy land. But really, what you have to keep in mind is that the sanctity of people, their value is more important. It's more important for you to take care of the person beside, making sure that you don't cross that red line ever. You never cause any harm, that you do not ruin that brotherhood and that fellowship that we have with one another as human beings. And he did that, alayhi salatu wasalam. Again, you have to remember that he just received al-yawma akmaltu lakum dinakum. It's basically his obituary. He was told that he was not going to live for very long, so he had to, and this was his last Hajj, so he was not going to do this again. He was probably not going to, he knew he was not going to get another opportunity to speak to so many people all at once. And he needed his legacy to be clear. He had to make sure that people did not misunderstand his legacy, and that they didn't use anything he taught, alayhi salatu wasalam, to shed blood, or to kill people, or to ruin lives, or to transgress against others, or to be oppressive, because that would be the last thing he would want to result from what he taught, alayhi salatu wasalam. And it happened anyway. It happened anyway, but he can't be blamed for it, alayhi salatu wasalam, because he stood there that day. And he repeated this as many times as he had to, telling them, your dam and your mal and your ird is haram alaykum, is sacred to you, just like the sanctity of this experience of being with me in a Hajj. It's a beautiful day. We're all having a good time. This is the most sacred time of your lives, yet the person beside you. And not only does that make sure that you don't oppress people, but it makes you react to those who do. Like your reaction to those who oppress other people or transgress against their blood or their wealth or their integrity, it becomes much more different when you know that the Prophet ﷺ said that this is something haram, is sacred. But because we don't, in my opinion, we often don't focus on the essence of what he's teaching, alayhi salatu wasalam. We get caught up on a lot of the peripheries. We get caught up in a lot of the details of what things he talked about, alayhi salatu wasalam, or things that he did maybe once or twice in his life. And I see people coming in, they're arguing about little, tertiary parts of Islam, and they're getting all upset about them. And they're missing something that he put in a lot of effort to make sure that it arrived at our doorstep. Like pieces of information that defined what this religion is about and what he was about, alayhi salatu wasalam. The hurma of the human life. The sanctity of human life, that we don't take that lightly as Muslims, ever. We don't take it lightly on our own accord, and we don't allow others to take it lightly either. And because I think we've left, we've gone astray, or we've diverted so far from what he taught, alayhi salatu wasalam, we don't have this anymore. We struggle when it comes to how well we treat people around us. And we watch Muslims around the globe being massacred and slaughtered and mistreated, and our reaction is very, I don't know, it's very mellow. And it's almost kind of empty on the inside because we've been normalized or desensitized towards all of it. When if you understand what he taught, alayhi salatu wasalam, and a'udhu billah, you see fundamentalism within our ranks as Muslims who see the value of a human life and the value of a Muslim life to be something that they have very little problem with shedding, with taking, with shedding the blood of. Why? Because I think they just don't. So it takes a certain degree of wisdom, maturity, and character to understand the essence of someone's legacy. Especially someone like the Prophet ﷺ, who spoke a lot in his life. Well, technically, he didn't speak that much, because if he did, because people memorized everything he said, then we would have the collections of hadith would be 10 times more than they are. But someone who was of that degree, of that caliber, and that degree of significance, and people loved him that much. There's a lot there, the Quran, and then you have a lot of ahadith where he said a lot of things, alayhi salatu wasalam. It's easy for people to get lost in all of it. Like, it's easy for you to, if you're thrown into the ocean of all of these narrations, you can drown. It's not that hard. That's why you need to be guided. You have to have proper scholarly guidance to know how to maneuver through it all. He said many things, alayhi salatu wasalam. He did many things. But figuring out what his legacy was, what he was really about in this world. I think a good way to get a snapshot of it is to read this final sermon. Because he knew it was the last time. And he was speaking as publicly as it. A lot of the things he said, alayhi salatu wasalam, in his life were circumstantial. Like, we know that there were certain circumstances to things he said. And sometimes we have the circumstance, and sometimes we don't. And sometimes he was on the minbar speaking to everyone, and sometimes he was in a small group, or he was speaking to an individual, or someone who had a specific problem or struggle, right? So, this is different. This is as public of a sermon as there are. Like, there's nothing more public here. You cannot circumstantialize any of this. You can't say that this is context based. No, this is just the general way of him seeing things, alayhi salatu wasalam. And that's valuable. That's valuable when you know that he's standing there, alayhi salatu wasalam, speaking to the crowd, to 100,000 people. There's no context here, aside from the context of the moment, which is the fact that this is the last time he's going to be speaking to them publicly. And he wants to make sure that his legacy and what he taught and what he brought, alayhi salatu wasalam, is clear to everyone who's listening to him. So you'd start with this one. ألا إن دماءكم وأموالكم حرام عليكم كحرمة يومكم هذا في شهركم هذا في بلدكم هذا ألا هل بلغت اللهم فاشهد. The second paragraph he would give, alayhi salatu wasalam, he would say, أيها الناس ألا كل شيء من أمر الجاهلية موضوع تحت قدمي ودماء الجاهلية موضوعة كلها وأول دم أضع دم ربيعة بن الحارث كان مسترضعا في بني ليث فقتلته هذيل وربا الجاهلية موضوع كله وأول ربا أضع ربا العباس بن عبد المطلب لكم رؤوس أموالكم لا تظلمون ولا تظلمون. So this is where I love this piece, because this is where the Prophet ﷺ brought the remnant livestock of Jahiliyyah and slaughtered it on that mountain that day. He ended Jahiliyyah ﷺ that day. He announced that it's done. There's no more Jahiliyyah. And he slaughtered the livestock of Jahiliyyah on the mountain of Arafah ﷺ. He told them, everything of Jahiliyyah is under my feet. It's gone. It's done. The blood the blood vengeances that exist in Jahiliyyah we're going to get rid of, and the riba. So the financial system and the social system is all gone. That all of the blood of Jahiliyyah is now done. The first blood that I end is the blood of my cousin, Rabi'a ibn al-Harith ibn Abd al-Muttalib. It was his cousin, alayhi salatu wasalam. He was given to Banu Layth Banu Layth were like Banu Sa'd. They came, you remember how he was treated when he was a kid, alayhi salatu wasalam, where they would send their infants out to the countryside. They would pay the ladies and they would breastfeed them and let them grow up eating. It's fresh air, it's less disease, they grow up stronger. So this was a very common practice, and Rabi'a, this young baby, was sent to Bani Layth, and Hudayl killed him. Another tribe, they had a raid. They raided Banu Layth and they slaughtered and they killed this baby. So Banu Abdul Muttalib, or Banu Hashim, the Prophet ﷺ's family, sought revenge. So it started this ongoing blood vengeance where they would kill some of Banu Hudayl and Hudayl would kill some of them, going on and on for years and years, and the blood count was maybe 15 people at that point for this one kid. So the Prophet ﷺ said, all of these are done, and I start with my own family member, meaning we will not ever speak of this again. And all of the riba of Jahiliyyah is done. And the first riba that I get rid of is the riba of my uncle Abbas. لَكُمْ رُؤُوسُ أَمْوَالِكُمْ. That you get your capital, the loan. Whatever you lent, you get that back. لَا تَظْلِمُونَ. You don't oppress. وَلَا تُظْلَمُونَ. You're not going to be oppressed. But no more riba, no more compounded interest rates that turn it, where you can barely just pay the installments. The actual capital is not even, you would have to sell your country to actually give them basically the capital is the country. Just to come take the country because we will never pay this back. Which is basically how the world functions now. I'm interested to see how this plays out eventually. I really am. I can't wait to see. It is the stupid, I don't even care anymore. The stupidest financial system that will bring from 5-year-olds and tell them how the world runs and they'll look at you as if you farted. Like it makes no sense at all. What are you talking about? There's no, like the way the world actually runs is a joke. It's just a big joke. And because we don't have any control over it, you have nothing to say. As long as I'm getting my paycheck and I'm having enough to buy my car and pay off my house, I don't seem to be able to do much more else. But the actual way it runs is absolutely insane. And I don't care what financial advisors think anymore, because I've talked to them and asked them questions and they have failed to give me an answer that makes any sense whatsoever. And I know how human beings function. Human beings have the tendency to just let the status quo and build off it. We do that in medicine all the time. That's why you have to question each other in medicine all the time. In my profession, I don't accept whatever the physician said. I have to go back and see it for myself. Like I don't accept the radiologist and what they put there. I have to go see. Why? Because there's always someone who's going to make a statement that may not be correct. And if I just build on it, then I'm building on something that was wrong. And there's no, and we have that tendency as human beings. And the way that things are running are absolutely impossible to sustain life on this planet for much longer if we continue to walk down this road. Regardless, the Prophet ﷺ knew that, and Islam knew that as well, which is why the whole system that was built on riba was removed. And what he did ﷺ that day through this paragraph is he ended Jahiliyyah. He said everything about Jahiliyyah now is done. The bigotry of Jahiliyyah, the racism of Jahiliyyah, the financial corruption of Jahiliyyah, the social corruption of Jahiliyyah, the wars and the bloodmongering of Jahiliyyah, all of that we're going to get rid of today. We're going to kill it today on Arafah. You're going to get rid of it. You're going to get over yourself and get over your personal vengeances and your revenge and your hatred, and you're going to get over it today. You're going to put it behind you, because all we want now is to move into the future of Islam. And they did. At least those of them who did, once he passed away 3 months later, alayhi salatu wasalam, did not lose their deen. You have to remember there's a number of people there's a fair amount of people who attended that khutbah for him, alayhi salatu wasalam. And after he passed away 3 months later, they did riddah. Right? They performed apostasy. Some of them fully, and some of them by just not giving zakat, and some of them in different ways, but they performed it. Right? So some of them didn't give it up. He said it, alayhi salatu wasalam, but they weren't ready and they didn't do it. And those who did, who slaughtered the livestock of Jahiliyyah on that mountain that day, were able to move forward. And a new era begun. He wasn't around for it, alayhi salatu wasalam, but a new era begun. And it's an interesting one to study. And I don't think we even know it very well. I think there are a lot of non-Muslims in the world who know more about our history than we do. Unfortunately, I think we don't really know much about our history. And those who think they know about their history, and those who do, end up just taking a side and then making it just based a political struggle and a fight, and we lose the ability to learn from it. The third paragraph. So the first one, the sanctity of human life. He made that very clear, alayhi salatu wasalam. That's a fundamental. Number 2, he ended Jahiliyyah, alayhi salatu wasalam. And now we're seeing the beginning of a new era. And moving on from that which Jahiliyyah represented before. The third paragraph, قال أيها الناس إن الشيطان قد يئس أن يعبد في أرضكم هذه ولكن أبدا ولكنه رضي أن يطاع فيما سوى ذلك مما تحقرون من أعمالكم فاحذروه على دينكم. He said, "O people, indeed, Shaitan has no hope anymore to be worshipped in this land again, as in idols, as in like rocks and idols. He knows that's not going to happen again. Khalas, the idols have been destroyed. Tawheed now is the essence. But he is, لكنه رضي. However, he is very satisfied and he's content. فيم أن يطاع فيما سوى ذلك. For you to obey him in things that are much less than that. مما تحقرون من أعمالكم. From the deeds that you don't think are important. He's happy with that. He's content with just a little bit of, I don't know, nazar haram maybe. He's okay with just looking at haram a little bit every once in a while. That's it. He's good. He'll get you in the nice habit of that. You're nice and he'll leave you. He'll come back 15 years later. He's not in a hurry. Like he has other stuff to do. He has more, bigger fish to fry. He'll come back later. He's happy with that. Leave you with that. If you just stick to it long enough, it'll do its work on you. And by that time, like people who fall into zina, it doesn't happen suddenly. This is not someone who is living a life of absolute purity and they are observing their chastity and all that, and then suddenly just out of nowhere they fall into la. That's not how these things work. Theft and robbery. There's not someone who is living a life of absolute nothing but halal, focused only on that, won't even consider. No. Shaitan makes sure that you take 6 steps. It takes, for you to arrive at the kabira, you have to take steps. He knows that. He just wants you to take a step, keep you there for a couple of years, and then another step, maybe another decade or so. Another step. He has time. He has time. He knows how this works. Slowly, he'll get you closer and closer. And then it's easy. And then the tip over is not a big deal. Like the tip over into one of the kaba'ir is not a big deal. فَاحْذَرُوهُ عَلَى دِينِكُمْ. So be cautious, he says, alayhi salatu wasalam, for your deen from him. Because he doesn't need the big shirk. He can just start with small stuff. Maybe a little bit of ostentation. Just a little bit of that. Just doing things wanting people's approval. Just do that for a while. Enjoy, kind of bathe in people's approval and opinions of you, and enjoy that, and use that as a way to strengthen your self-esteem and self-value. Do that for a while. Just stick to that for a couple of years. Get nice and addicted to it. Now we'll put you in. Now he'll come back and throw a couple of curveballs at you, where you have to make a choice between doing something that is sincere versus your reputation, what people think of you, and you'll sell out once or twice, and you'll just do whatever keeps you popular instead of doing that which is right. You do a couple of those, 3 or 4 in a row, and slowly, أَفَرَأَيْتَ مَنِ اتَّخَذَ إِلَهَهُ هَوَاهُ. And then your Lord now is no longer Allah subhanahu wa ta'ala. It's your whims. Or you make a God that is whimful, like based on your whims and desires, not the real God. Like you're not worshiping Allah anymore. You're worshiping whatever mutated or morphed version you've made of him that suits your whims and desires. He's happy with that, because that'll do the job. Yawm al-Qiyamah. He doesn't need a sanam. It's easier. A sanam is much more straightforward. The argument is it's a slam dunk. There's no defense. You don't need a court. It's really easy. You have a sanam, good. Jahannam, no problem. No need for any more discussion. This one here is a little bit more, it's more technical. You have to but it works. It works just as fine. He's a lawyer. He knows what he's doing. He understands the law. See, that's what Iblis is good at. He knows the law. He knows the law of Allah subhanahu wa ta'ala. He was very well educated and he's knowledgeable. He knows the law. So he knows what he needs to do. He knows, if this won't work, you'll find something else. So if you're not aware of him, and if you are not cautious and you're not alert, then you have no chance, wallah. You absolutely have no chance. This guy's been doing it for millennia. For millennia. He knows exactly, he knows the law inside and out, and he knows how to get to you. If you are not protecting yourself, if you are not aware and alert and cautious and you're not focused, he'll find a way. He'll find a part of it. He'll find the right. He'll get it up to a felony or a federal offense. He'll get it to something where to make sure you have a sentence where you're not going to be. Allah subhanahu wa ta'ala. This is what he does. So you have to be careful. So the Prophet ﷺ is saying this to say that the struggle is not over. The struggle of Tawheed and of La ilaha illallah is not done. Just because alayhi salatu wasalam entered during Fatih Makkah, and with his staff he pointed at the asnam and they went falling down. Now the Asnam, and he sent Khalid ibn Walid and Amr ibn al-As and al-Miqdad, and they brought down all of the Asnam in Jazeera. Now Arabia didn't have the Hubal and yani Lat and Uzza and Manah, and all these are gone. It doesn't mean the struggle's over. The struggle is real, it's there, and it's as bad as it has ever been. And Shaitan, if he can't get this, he'll get the next best thing. Like, he has no problem of compromising. If he can't get a full shirk, he'll get the one under it. If he can't get it as in worshipping a tree or a rock or a person, he'll get you to maybe worship a person. Maybe don't say it, but perform enough that the evidence supports it. Ask lawyers. Lawyers know, if you may not say something, but if I can prove through your actions that your actions are consistent with that, then whether you said it or you didn't makes no difference. To get a confession out of you is great. Awesome, you just confess that I'm mushrik, I believe in khalas, easy, quick, express route to Jahannam, no need to waste any time here. But then if you're not going to confess, then I just have to prove it. I just have to make sure that your actions are consistent with someone who didn't believe in La ilaha illallah. But I said it, I know you said it. All criminals plead not guilty. Or at least most of them do. Most of them plead non-guilty. I know, La ilaha illallah, great. Let's see. Is it consistent with it? It's not consistent. I didn't ever claim shirk. I know you didn't claim it, but look at your actions. He knows what he's doing. Be careful. Just be careful. That's why he said this, alayhi salam. Like, listen to these words. Imagining that you lived a lifetime with the Prophet alayhi salatu wasalam, and now he's going to leave you. He's going to go away. You're not going to see him again until you die. Yawm al-Qiyamah happens. It's a long wait. It's going to be إِنَّهُمْ يَرَوْنَهُ بَعِيدًا وَنَرَاهُ قَرِيبًا. Yes, Yawm al-Qiyamah, if you're pious, you feel it's near, but still it's going to be time before you're reunited with him in a way that you would like to be. So he's giving you these pieces of advice. Look, you have to take the sanctity of life seriously. You have to respect the people around you. You have to understand that they are, just like you are sacred, because you feel you're sacred, like in terms of your rights. You feel like someone to transgress against you and take away your wealth, or to harm you physically, or to harm your reputation, that the world should stop and avenge you and treat you with... People are equal to you, so you have to feel that way about them too. Jahiliyyah has to die. Everything that it represented has to die. I can tell you that there are people from Jahiliyyah, if they were to come back today, they would be asking us, where's your taqwa? There are people who died in Jahiliyyah, who if they were resurrected and brought back today, they would ask us where our taqwa is. There are characteristics of Abu Jahl that I would like to see today. There are characteristics of Abu Lahab that I would like to see today amongst us. I hate to say this, but they had certain certain characteristics that we've lost as Muslims. Just basic decency, just basic bravery, commitment to a cause, just being truthful to your word. They died for something that was haram, and they died in shirk, and they went to Jahannam, but at least they stood by what they believed in. It's extremely difficult to be around Muslims who are half in, half out type of thing. Where Abu Jahl had more commitment to shirk than they have to haqq. But Jahiliyyah and everything represented has to die. And the struggle is not over. Shaitan is still very capable, and he knows how to get to you, and he will get to you. So be cautious from him regarding your deen. Your deen is not safe yet. Fourth paragraph. قال أيها الناس إن الزمان قد استدار كهيئته يوم خلق الله السماوات والأرض وإن عدة الشهور عند الله 12 شهرا منها 4 حرم 3 متوالية ورجب الذي بين جمادى وشعبان فلا تظلموا فيهن أنفسكم ولا ترجعوا بعدي كفارا يضرب بعضكم أعناق بعض ألا هل بلغت اللهم فاشهد. And the Prophet ﷺ asked people let's go back to Ibrahim ﷺ's teachings. Let's forget our differences, let's forget our disagreements and our futile tertiary arguments that we have. Let's go back to the basics. Let's go back to the basic, because the Arab had changed the calendar and they had different names for months and they did different things. Let's go back to Ibrahim alayhi salam, how he had the sacred months. Let's go back to the simplicity of it all. فَلَا تَظْلِمُوا فِيهِنَّ أَنفُسَكُم. We'll go back to Ashhur al-Hurum and don't harm you. وَلَا تَرْجِعُوا كُفَّارًا. That's what he said alayhi. Don't regress after I leave. And يَضْرِبُ بَعْضُكُمْ أَعْنَاقَ بَعْضٍ. And you take your swords out and you put the swords on the necks of your brothers again after I die. Alayhi salatu wasalam. Don't regress back to that. Don't pull your swords out on each other over over differences that don't matter, over things that you can easily overlook. He asked alayhi salatu wasalam for authenticity. He asked for unity here. He's asking us, he asked his people, you need to stay together. You need to work together. Don't go back to your old ways. Everything he said here, alayhi salatu wasalam, is absolutely relevant. Like, I don't want to be pessimistic and kind of point out how we did all of the things that he said we shouldn't do, alayhi salatu wasalam, and fell into all the traps that he told us very clearly that we shouldn't fall into. But you don't need me to do it. You'll figure it out yourself. You can see it because we live it every day. We live this reality of Muslims who, the most vicious part of their existence will be unleashed against other Muslims. Where all of the negative things that they can think of, they'll say it towards Muslims, and they will work against their Muslim brothers because of differences that they perceive to be extremely important or to be overly significant when they're not. And here, alayhi salatu wasalam, just said, go back to how إِنَّ عِدَّةَ الشُّهُورِ عِنْدَ اللَّهِ 12 شَهْرًا. Just go back to how it was when Ibrahim alayhi salam was around. Respect the basics. Respect the basic teachings that we all agree to, that everyone agrees upon, that even predated him alayhi salatu wasalam. And don't come after me. The moment I leave, you pull your swords and you start fighting again. And then people start murdering each other. And subhanAllah, it's exactly what we've been doing for a long time. And I think as an ummah, until we come to a point of maturity where we value our unity over our differences, over being right, over being able to prove that that group was wrong all along, or they are transgressive, or they are this, or they are that. Until we come to a point where we're willing to get over our egos and just prioritize our unity, then we're not going to get anywhere. We're going to continue, this downward spiral will continue. There's a lot of room for how low we can go. We're not there yet. We have not hit rock bottom by any means, by any measures. We've been actually worse than we are today. And this can keep on going. It's only when Muslims, and if you look at this historically, the peaks that we had, that Muslims experienced, came through leaders and people who were able to prioritize a cause and prioritize haqq and prioritize adl and prioritize wahda and unity over their personal differences. When it's the leaders who are able to bring together the people of Sham and Palestine and Iraq and Misr together, people who don't necessarily like each other or agree on a lot or have good opinions of one another to begin with. It was when they were able to bring Muslims together to work with one another that change actually occurred. It doesn't happen very often, but enough pressure will generate either people who will go absolutely the other direction and work openly against their brothers, or those who will open their minds and their hearts. And I think a lot of the masa'ib that have happened, a lot of the tragedies that we've seen over the last few decades occurred for a reason. Because if you think about it, the people of Palestine had to leave and go live in other countries. And the people of Iraq had to leave and go live in other countries. The people of Lebanon had to leave and go live in other countries. And the people of Syria had to leave and go live in other countries. And the people of Misr and Somalia and Sudan, they all had to move around from one place to the other. So people were living in other people's countries, right? So the Turkish got to get to know the Syrians a little bit better, and the Iraqis got to know the Palestinians a little bit better. So people started to get to know each other more. Yeah? And when that happens, when people from the Middle East go and they live in the Khalij countries, then people get to know each other. And when we get to know one another, we're more likely to have the ability to maybe get over this and put our swords back in their sockets again. Because he told us, لا ترجعوا بعدي كفارا يضرب بعضكم أعناق بعض. Don't go do that again. Because that's how they were. That's how the Arab were before he died, before he was around, alayhi salatu wasalam. He brought people together. 100,000 standing in front of him. None of them were armed. Most of them didn't like one another. They were united by this cause. They were united by his message, alayhi salatu wasalam, by his legacy, by the sanctity of that place and those days and these teachings. And that's what unites us. Whether you are, look around you right now, like this in this room, there's 50 people maybe. We cover 15 countries easy. And that's not, with no effort of me even trying to count them mentally. There are 15 countries. And when I say countries, I'm saying parts of the world. I hail from a different part that you hail from, different than you hail from, different than you. We all come from all these spots. What would bring us in the same place? Well, let you think about it. Why would you listen to me? Why would you listen? Well, a Syrian dude. Why would you listen to him? Well, I can tell you, many of you, this Turkish guy listen to a Syrian guy? No. You know that. No, they wouldn't listen. These stereotypes are very well known, right? These acts of these racist concepts. Lebanese guy sitting to a Syrian guy? Well, that is like, and I don't blame the Lebanese, by the way. The Syrian army has done enough to them, so whenever Lebanese doesn't like me, I'm like, yeah, I'll allow it for another decade. Yeah, and you deserve it. The army. But you understand what I'm saying here? Like there's a lot of there's ground for there's ground for hatred and there's ground for people not. But there's also there's a reason for it not for us not to succumb to it, for us not to see the differences as reasons for animosity or racism or superiority or war or struggle, but rather see it as a monument of the beauty of what we've got, and see this diversity as something that's heartwarming and heart melting actually in what it offers. And that's what he said. That's what he was trying to teach, alayhi salatu wasalam. Don't go back and pull your swords. Keep your swords in their sockets and work with each other. And a lot of them did. And had they not, the Islamic Empire or the Islamic Khilafah would have not spread the way it did. If they went back immediately, with hatred against each other, it wouldn't have worked. Yes, some of them did, and Abu Bakr had to deal with the challenge during his Khilafah radiallahu anhu to cleanse the land a little bit from people from warmongers and people who were filled with that rage and that no, you can't work with these certain people because they are not to be trusted or they are not to be this or not to be that. And I know that you've heard these things before. I know that you've sat in your house as a kid and listened to your parents talk about a certain group of people that and I always tell people that if you don't actually take time in your life to remove racism, then you are racist. And you just don't know it. You have to take time. You have to sit back and think. Because it's like, no, I like everybody, but then all I have to do is just ask enough questions and I'll find it. You'll say, no, everyone, but just not those people. So there is a group of people. Yeah, but I've tried them out. All of them? You've tried all of those people. No, I've met 3 of them and I don't like them. Oh, so then the whole population doesn't work anymore. That's racism. That's what it is. And we all have it. It's somewhere there. And you just have to find it and then find it and then neutralize it. Find it and then kill it. Get rid of it. Because there's no other way. He would continue, alayhi salam. Every time he would say one of these things, he would say, Allah hal ballagt. Allah, have I conveyed the message? And then the people on horseback would gallop into the crowd. And they would repeat what he said, alayhi salatu wasalam. And people would hear it. And they would respond, Naam, Allahumma naam. And the Prophet alayhi salatu wasalam would say, Allahumma fashhad, O Allah, be my witness. I told them that this is, they should not go after, regress after I die back to the habits of hatred and ruin their unity. He continued alayhi salatu wasalam. He said, Ayyuhan nas, فإن لنسائكم عليكم حقا ولكم على نسائكم حقا لكم عليهن ألا يطئن فروشكم أحدا تكرهونه وعليهن ألا يأتين بفاحشة مبينة فإن فعلن فإن الله قد أذن لكم أن تعظوهن وأن تهجروهن في المضاجع وأن تضربوهن ضربا غير مبرح فإن انتهين فلهن رزقهن وكسوتهن بالمعروف وأن تحسنوا إليهن في ذلك فاتقوا الله في النساء واستوصوا بالنساء خيرا فإنهن عوان عندكم لا يملكون منهن شيئا غير ذلك فإنما أخذتموهن بأمانة الله واستحللتم فروجهن بكلمة الله فاعقلوا أيها الناس قولي ألا هل بلغت اللهم فاشهد. By far the longest of the paragraphs. And when he chose, you have to think of this again. He's choosing his topics very, very wisely, alayhi salatu wasalam. He's talking about very specific things. The sanctity of human life, the end of the reign of Jahiliyyah, the fact that the struggle is ongoing, it's not done yet. Shaitan is still there and you have not won. You're not victorious yet. We're still in the midst of the struggle. The fact that unity has to be prioritized. He's thinking of the themes he wants people to learn. And then a full paragraph, the longest of them all, talking about the rights of women. Talking about how the Arab have to treat their women differently. They have to treat them better. They have to acknowledge their rights as people, as human beings, as individuals, as partners in building this nation. That Allah subhanahu, they have to show mindfulness of Allah subhanahu wa ta'ala in how they treat their women. That they have to understand that His wasiyyah to them, alayhi salatu wasalam, is to treat them well, is to honor them, is to respect them. Understanding that the ladies that you brought into your homes as your wives are people you brought them there through the will of Allah, through the decree of Allah, through the covenant of Allah subhanahu wa ta'ala. They're there because Allah subhanahu wa ta'ala is allowing for that. And He is their wali subhanahu wa ta'ala. And if you mistreat them, then you are going to have to answer to Him directly subhanahu wa ta'ala. This is what He said alayhi salatu wasalam. Like you see, if anyone had tried to talk about this topic in the midst of this last sermon, he would be ridiculed. Like if I tried like somehow to slip in some women's right topic in the middle of his final sermon, alayhi salatu wasalam, someone would say, "Yani, you're whitewashed," or whatever. They'll use some term. He said this, alayhi salatu wasalam. This is like authentic and it's almost mutawatir. We know that day he stood there and he made sure a full paragraph was focused on talking to men, telling them that you must acknowledge their rights and you must treat them with respect and you must show taqwa and you must have my wasiyah, my final advice to you to show them to be khair, to be good to them. Alayhi salatu wasalam. Why? Because he understood. He knew. He knew the bad habits that existed. He knew what it was going to take in order for this nation to stand again, to get on its feet. In order for it to stand on its feet, you need strong households. You need marriages that work, where the rights are clear, where she knows what she has to do and you know what you have to do, and you're both contributing equally, and you're participating. You're participating in building the Muslim household that will build, that is the foundation of the ummah. The ummah is just the collective households, that's all it is. It's nothing else. There's no other system for it. The ummah of Muhammad alayhi salatu wasalam is just the collective households all together. So these households are built on marriage. And in marriage, if there's no respect for women's rights, then khalas. فَإِنَّ لِنِسَائِكُمْ عَلَيْكُمْ حَقًّا. Your wives have rights upon you. وَلَكُمْ عَلَى نِسَائِكُمْ حَقًّا. You have rights upon them. It's a two-way road. It's not a one-way road. He wasn't alayhi salatu wasalam biased in either direction. He wasn't. He spoke to men during this one specifically, for sure. But he wasn't biased. He wasn't trying to teach that the pendulum has to swing in one way and not the other. No. But it was already swung in the wrong way. The Arab was a very, very patriotic society. And understandably so, because they were living in the desert, and survival in the desert is very difficult. So a lot of the laws or the norms or the habits were very much driven by the patriarchy and survival. So a lot of the habits were negative. And the Prophet ﷺ in his teachings in the Quran changed a lot of that. Obviously, when it comes to the women were made equal in Islam. When it comes to accountability right off the bat, you have to be Muslim too. You're going to make a choice in your aqeedah as well, whether you're going to accept or not. You are looking at the same potential of reward and the same potential of punishment. And you're equally accountable for being Muslim. That was a big change, because that's not how they were seen in Arabia. They were seen as inferior. So they would not be held accountable as harshly, or they would not be asked to perform rituals or obligations as strictly. No, in Islam is equal. You are commanded to be a good Muslimah as strictly as I am. And you're going to be held accountable for everything that Allah subhanahu wa ta'ala has commanded exactly like I am going to be. There's no difference. And they will have the right to own and to do business and to choose their spouses and to inherit. None of that was the norm in Arabia. None of it. This is the reality of how so he came, and after that was established, he would add to that, alayhi salatu wasalam, istawsu bin nisa'i khira. You need to bring your best self with them. And you must respect what it is that Allah subhanahu wa ta'ala has granted you. And that's what he taught, alayhi salatu wasalam. I don't know what to tell you. This is what he said. I think this discussion on this topic now is more pressing than it has ever been historically. Because I think we've lost the middle ground. I think we've lost this point, the median point. Like, this is ummah wasata. This is a balanced ummah. Everything that we learn has a beautiful balance to it. So when we talk about relationships and the rights of people, and the rights of spouses, men and women, there's a balance to this. I think we've lost that balance. I think people who are talking about this topic are actually, in what they're saying, they're unbalanced. And the rhetoric that's being put forward is not a rhetoric that is healthy for men or for women. And we're living at a time that is so politically driven. Everything that is said is so politically driven and politically interpreted that it makes it difficult to have these conversations that we need to have so that we can figure out what is it that we're looking to do. And I think the longer we take to have these conversations, the more the growing or upcoming generation is going to suffer. And their marriages will be delayed even longer. And they'll be less happy in those unions. And the families will be weaker. And this is a problem. This is a real problem. And I'm not talking here about number of children that you must have 10 or 15. This is not the point. The point is the nature of the household. Some people can have 10 children and be a happy household, and some people can have one child and they murder each other over this one kid. I've seen all the examples. It's about, and it all comes down to expectations, and it comes to obligations and rights, and understanding what the nature of the relationship is, and a lot of that has been distorted. I listen to people talking. I don't do marriage counseling, and I never will. Inshallah, I'll meet Allah subhanahu wa ta'ala with not entering this realm ever. But listening to people talk about some of it just makes me wonder whether we understand what it is that this is about. For men specifically, I don't know if it's clear. I don't know if men understand their roles as providers and protectors. That when you marry a woman, this is an amana that Allah subhanahu wa ta'ala has given you. Take care of her. Just like one day you'll have a daughter and you'll look at the man in his eyes and you'll tell him, you take care of her. I need to trust you that you'll do this. I'll die someday, but I need to know that once I'm dead, you'll continue to do right by this lady, and that means you're going to be patient and perseverant and kind and generous, and you're not going to use your temper, and you're going to understand that there's going to be good moments and bad ones, and you take care for all of it. And the same thing goes for women, for sisters. They understand that they enter this union, that they know what they're there to do, what their job is. Most women do, but I don't know if some of it's fading away a little bit when I'm listening to some. I'm not sure. Like I always understood this to be clearer to ladies than it are to men. Like I always felt like men need to be educated on how they have to be husbands. But now I'm finding no. I think sisters have to be educated on how to be wives as well. What it means to take care of a household and take care of a spouse and the children and be the nurturer and be the point of second, of rahmah, of compassion and to be that protector, that emotional protector of the people in the house. If a man doesn't feel supported and aided and protected and respected and admired in his own household, he's weak outside. He's weak, and you don't want a weak man. There's no benefit from a weak man. A weak man is useless. He's useless. He does nothing. If he's not powerful, if he doesn't feel strong in his home, then he can't be strong outside. And these basics, I don't feel. It's like there's a lot of, it's like we're competing with our spouses almost. It's like we're competing with one another. What are you doing? Like it's whatever a man achieves is the household achieves. Whatever the lady is, the same thing. But I don't know. Again, I'm not qualified to talk about this. But listen to what he said, alayhi salatu wasalam, here. He took a moment in the midst of his final sermon in front of 100,000 people, and he's told, you must respect this. Ittaqullaha fin nisa. They have their rights, and you must respect those rights. And do with that information, honestly, whatever you want. But that's what he did. Then he said, أيها الناس إن ربكم واحد وأباكم واحد كلكم لآدم وآدم من تراب ألا لا فضل لعربي على أعجمي ولا لأعجمي على عربي ولا لأحمر على أسود ولا لأسود على أحمر إلا بالتقوى ثم تلا إن أكرمكم عند الله أتقاكم ألا هل بلغت اللهم فاشهد. And the Prophet alayhi salatu wasalam this is a unparalleled statement of human equality and human rights, and I don't think that anyone ever talked about this topic more eloquently historically. I don't think that anyone, not a prophet, not a human rights activist, no one. He stood there alayhi salatu wasalam, he said, people, indeed, your Lord is one, and your Father, all of you, everyone here, your Father is one. You all come from Adam, and Adam comes from the soil of this earth. There is no advantage for an Arabi over a non-Arab, or for a non-Arab over an Arab. Now, they're understanding that the majority of people he was speaking to were Arab at the time, or if not all of them. And there's no advantage for a red man over a black man, or a black man over a white man, except through taqwa. And then he recited the verse that exists in Surah Al-Hujurat. Inna akramakum, those who are ranked the highest by God are the ones who have the most taqwa in their hearts. Ala hal ballaght, indeed have I conveyed the message. Allahumma fashhad, Allah be my witness that I did. An unparalleled statement of human equality. Of equality of human beings all across the planet, regardless of where you come from, what you look like, and how much money you have, and how old or young you are, healthy or sick, wealthy or poor. It doesn't matter what part of the earth produced you, or what tone of skin, or color, or how tall or short, or fat or thin. It makes no difference in terms of what type of person you are, because you hail from Adam just as equally to the person beside you. He would say these words, alayhi salatu wasalam, standing on the mountain where Adam and Eve reunited and learned a piece of knowledge that they needed to learn, and then made their tawbah together and made their plans for a better future for each other. This is where he did it. He went back to that spot, alayhi salatu wasalam. It's interesting, you don't find this statement anywhere else. It's like, in my opinion, he was holding on to this, alayhi salatu wasalam, waiting for the right moment to drop it. Like he had this statement, this perfectly put together, easily memorizable sentence, alayhi salatu wasalam, waiting for the moment where he could drop it, where he would land it and it would mean something, and it would stick with people. And he waited until he was standing on the mountain where Adam and Eve once came together again, where they gained the knowledge of the truth. He stood there in front of 100,000 people from every walk of life that existed in the region that he was living in, alayhi salatu wasalam. And he would drop it. And there's no difference. There's no advantage. You're all the same. It's only taqwa that makes you, that gives you an advantage. And that is something that exists inside the heart here. And no one knows about it. No one can judge it. You don't see, there's no barometer of what taqwa, how much taqwa you have. There's no blood test that will bring how much taqwa you have inside of you. This is something only the Almighty knows about. And since it's something that only Allah subhanahu wa ta'ala knows about, there's absolutely no way for us to judge each other or to establish fulan is better than fulan, or I am better than fulan. And if you do that, then you're doing that based on assumptions and based on ignorance, and you're going to be accountable for doing that. Aside from that, racism is just collective arrogance. Arrogance is when I feel I'm better than you. Racism is when I feel I'm better than everyone who's like you. That's all it is. So racism is just arrogance times a million. Arrogance is towards one person. Racism is just when I do it on many other people, and that's what it is. So racism it's rooted in, it's embedded in just arrogance. It's basic arrogance. We all have a little bit of that. You have to get rid of it. This statement he made, alayhi salatu wasalam, this absolutely magnificent statement that he made, alayhi salatu wasalam, ended any form of it, removes it off the map. It's not, you can't, it doesn't matter if you're related to him, alayhi salatu wasalam, if you're not. If you are from the lineage of the rulers of the land, and someone who has absolutely, doesn't even know who his father is, a bastard who has no idea who his parents are, he's found beside a dumpster. The two people, there's no way to choose between them and who's better. There's no way to choose who's better amongst them. And if you say anything to counter that, to contrary to that, then you have not understood his legacy, alayhi salatu wasalam. I mean, you don't understand what Islam is about. If you think that somehow this person is better than that person anyway, it's merit and only merit. And the merit that Allah subhanahu wa ta'ala is going to use to judge people is going to be taqwa. And that's something that's left to a later date. He doesn't do it now. Unless Allah subhanahu wa ta'ala tells you how much taqwa you have and how much taqwa this person has, and He tells you how much taqwa you're going to have on the day that you die and the day that they die, there's no way for you to know. Because who knows, maybe the khawatim are different. So you tell me, what about the non-Muslim? What about them? What about them? Well, you know how much taqwa they have, or how much taqwa they may have, or how much taqwa they could have? Do you know how much taqwa you're going to have the day you die? Maybe you focus on that. Maybe focus on how much taqwa you're going to have the day you die. Why do you seem too confident about it? That no one would ask or even think to look at other people unless they were absolutely confident that they had a certain amount that was going to be enough for themselves yawm al-qiyamah. Right? It makes no sense. If there's a question about how much you're going to have, or how much you have right now, or how much you will contain of this when you die, then you should have no interest in asking other people or looking at them. So it must mean you're very confident about that. And I would like to know where you get that confidence from. I would like to shop at that market too. Because as far as I know, we have no way to know this. As far as we can tell, we have no way to know. And this is the statement he made, alayhi salatu wasalam, bringing humanity together. One big family. Given it's a big miserable family, but it's a family. And what family isn't miserable? Really. But that's how we see it. I have to see you that way, and you have to see me that way. We're a part of this big collective family. And we're not better than one another, and we're not lesser than one another. And there's no reason for us to look at it that way, but rather look at the fact that we are here to support each other and to be responsible and to help and to further and to move forward and to empower and to aid and support. And when that mentality enters, when it's less of the former and more of the latter, then things change. He continues عليه الصلاة والسلام قال ألا وإني فرطكم على الحوض ومكاثر بكم الأمم ومكاثر بكم الأمم فلا تسودوا وجهي يوم القيامة ألا وإني مستنقذ من النار أناسا ومستنقذ مني أناس فأقول ربي أصيحابي فيقول لي إنك لا تدري ما أحدثوا بعدك فأقول سحقا سحقا. So the Prophet ﷺ in this paragraph, he wanted to make a personal statement to us. Something for us to think about regarding our relationship with him ﷺ. He said, indeed, I am faratukum al-hawd. I am waiting for you at the basin. His hawd ﷺ. I'm waiting for you there at the basin. And my intention is that I show off the large numbers of Muslims that are going to come that day. فَلَا تُسَوِّدُوا وَجْهِي. Don't make me look bad. Don't make me look bad yawm al-qiyamah when not enough people come. When most of you, when I think I should have more followers and I had less followers because people didn't actually see their part of the bargain through. They didn't seal their part of the deal. فَلَا تُسَوِّدُوا وَجْهِي. Don't make me look bad yawm al-qiyamah. Sallallahu alayhi wa sallam. He said, indeed, I am going to be saving some people from nar yawm al-qiyamah. He will intercede, alayhi salatu wasalam. He'll remove people from the punishment of the hellfire. وَمُسْتَنْقَذٌ مِنِّي أُنَاسٍ. And some people will be taken away from me. And I tried to save them and I'll be denied. And I'll say, oh Allah, oh my Lord, usayhabi, these are my companions. He didn't say ashabi, which is like full companion. He said usayhabi, meaning like minor. I knew them. I saw them before. I heard about them, that they were, they prayed and this stuff. Like they're familiar faces to me. Why are you taking them away from me? فَيَقُولُ لَا تَدْرِي. You don't know what they did after you left. You don't know how they regressed after you left. How they changed your legacy and changed your teachings and did not commit to that which you had brought forward. How they manipulated the words and manipulated And when he knows that, alayhi salatu wasalam, he says, suhqan, suhqan, and good riddance. Good riddance, take them away. If that's what they did, if I offered what I offered them over years and years and years of teaching, I committed myself to them, and then they took all of it and threw it away, and then had the audacity to come Yawm al-Qiyamah and act like they didn't. Yeah, may Allah subhanahu wa ta'ala forgive us, wallahi. May Allah subhanahu wa ta'ala save us from that moment. Because Yawm al-Qiyamah, what you have the hope for is that when he says, ummati, ummati, my ummah, my nation, that you are seen as a part of that. That you are going to be added into that group of people. But some people will come and they feel that they should be added to the group, but they won't. And the argument that the malaika will make is that, no, you don't know what they did. Go take a look. Here are the values and the principles that you taught. Here are the practices. Here are the rituals. Here's how you lived your life. Look at what they did. Has nothing to do with this. They changed all of it. They didn't commit to any of it. Yeah, they made a few claims, but it's not like it. Yes, they dressed like you. Sure. But there's nothing. What they added on, what they changed, how they ruined the functionality, how they removed the essence of what was being done. So it turned into empty skeletons of something that once was beautiful and meaningful, into something now that has no purpose for it whatsoever. He told us, alayhi salatu wasalam, he's waiting for us. He expects you to be there. He expects you to show up and to be prepared. and to have enough merit in your life so that you can come to him alayhi salatu wasalam and you can be there and that you're not taken away. He's telling you that, look, life is too busy. أَنَا فَرَطُكُمْ عَلَى الْحَوْضِ. He would always say this alayhi salatu wasalam to people. When they would come and say, Ya Rasulullah, I want to come to our house, come have dinner, come spend time. He would say, فَرَطُكُمْ عَلى الْحَوْضِ. مَوْعِدُنَا الْحَوْض. Our appointment is the basin. Make it to the basin. I don't have time in dunya. It's too busy right now. Just make sure you make it. Just make it that far, and I'll take care of it from there. We'll make sure that you get where you want to go. And then we can hang out and spend time. We'll be fine. But now, just go do your job. Just go focus on that which you're here for. And he hopes, alayhi salatu wasalam, that many of us make it. That we all make it. And that none of us are taken away. But he told us some of us will be. Some of us will be removed. May Allah subhanahu wa ta'ala make us not amongst those people, inshallah. Make us amongst those who actually are saved by him, alayhi salatu wasalam, when he intercedes on our behalf. And you say, أيها الناس إن الله قد قسم لكل وارث نصيبه من الميراث ولا يجوز لوارث وصية ولا يجوز وصية في أكثر من الثلث من ادعى إلى غير أبيه أو تولى غير مواليه فعليه لعنة الله والملائكة والناس لا يقبل منه صرف ولا عدل ألا هل بلغت. This paragraph, he talks specifically alayhi salatu wasalam about family, about rulings that preserve the family. He talks about inheritance and he talks about bloodlines. He talks about the importance of making sure that inheritance is given to the people who deserve it, that everyone receives their haqq from the mirath, that no one is being cut out and no one is being given more than what they deserve, and that people who are not a part of a family don't claim to be, and that people who are a part of the family are not removed from that. Why? To protect the sanctity of the family. To protect the sanctity of the family. It's funny. Like, I remember when I was a kid and I read this piece. I was never sure why he talked about that, alayhi salatu wasalam. And then, as I grew up in the village a little bit, and I watched the number of women who are deprived from the inheritance of their fathers by their own brothers, I figured it out. Once I watched brothers manipulate their fathers and their mothers to make sure another brother got nothing, and when I watched this happen, when I watched how families were being torn apart, how someone who was not related in the bloodline would bring themselves into a family and actually have more influence on the father than the children, and take from the wealth and ruin the structure and ruin the relationships of kin. I saw that, and I saw it happen time and time again. I understood what he was talking about here, alayhi salatu wasalam. Al-mirath wa ad-di'a ila ghayri abihi. That has to be. You need to protect that piece. Everyone should get their haqq, and no one should be asking for more than what they get. And this is something that we need still today. He will continue alayhi salatu wasalam, running out of time. قال فليبلغ الشاهد منكم الغائب فرب مبلغ أوعى له من سامع ورب حامل فقه إلى من هو أفقه منه. This piece is actually extremely interesting to me. I always use this as an argument point when I'm having certain discussions with people. He said, alayhi salatu wasalam, فَلْيُبَلِّغِ الشَّاهِدِ مِنْكُمُ الْغَائِبِ. The person who's attending this and hearing it, may they convey this information to those who are not here to hear it, the absent, the ones who aren't here. So take this, what you've heard from me today, convey it to others. That's simple. Up to now, that's simple. But then he added two phrases. He said, فَرُبَّ مُبَلَّغٍ أَوْعَى لَهُ مِنْ سَامِعٍ. Because there will be many people who are told about this later, who will understand it more deeply than the person who conveyed it to them, or the person who heard it. That's what he's saying, alayhi salatu wasalam. There'll be people who, so the Prophet alayhi salatu wasalam is speaking to someone, this someone heard, this someone came and told me, or you, right? He's saying, alayhi salatu wasalam, some of you, some of me or you, will understand what's being said more than the person who actually heard it from me, alayhi salatu wasalam. That's what he's saying. This is what the words mean. And then he added, he says even, وَرُبَّ حَامِلِ فِقْهٍ إِلَى مَنْ هُوَ أَفْقَهْ مِنْهُ. And there will be many people who will carry fiqh, meaning they'll take fiqh from me, take jurisprudence knowledge from me, and hand it over to someone else, like the next generation, who will be more knowledgeable than they were. What he means by this, alayhi salatu wasalam, is that a lot of what he's teaching, what he taught in his life, will grow with time. It will start small, and then it's like a tree, it grows bigger. And many of the things he taught alayhi salatu wasalam during his life would not necessarily make sense as clearly to the people who were living as much as it was going to make sense to people who come later. Because he was not planning just for the people who lived with him. He built this, alayhi salatu. Allah subhanahu wa ta'ala taught him to build this so that it would continue forever. That's what he heard. He heard in the Quran, الْيَوْمَ أَكْمَلْتُ لَكُمْ دِينَكُمْ. Today I completed the religion for you. This is now full, it's complete. No other faith was granted this. No other faith has a verse like that in their book. Only we do. Where he was told that's it. You don't need more revelation. You don't need another prophet who brings in more Quran. We're done. This is all that you need. Yeah. So everything I teach, just hand it over to who comes next. They'll get it. They'll get it. They'll live it and they'll see, oh, now I know why he said that, alayhi salatu. And that's why in your life even, as you carry things, you may say, I don't understand this hadith. Well, I don't understand what this ayah means. Don't worry, just carry it and hand it on. Someone else will later on make sense of it. He's telling this to his Sahaba, alayhi salatu wasalam. Who is more knowledgeable to us than the Sahaba, right? They're the pinnacle of Islamic piety and knowledge. However, the Prophet ﷺ is saying that some of you who come later will understand what the Sahaba will convey to you from my words more than the Sahaba themselves. Because for them, they may not fully, like, okay, you said that, ya Rasulullah, we accept it. I don't know why you're saying this. I don't know why this topic. I'll give you an example. And this is one of my favorite little kind of moments. Hind bint Utbah, the wife of Abu Sufyan, the daughter of Utbah bin Rabi'ah, the lady who got Hamza killed. She was a difficult woman. She came at the end of the Prophet ﷺ's life and she performed her bay'ah before the Hajj and she accepted Islam. And the Prophet ﷺ accepted her repentance, no problem. And they had it's an interesting discussion. Like the discussion is a long one. I'm not going to go through it. It's a really nice discussion though. And amongst the things that happened, he's making bay'ah with her and he's telling her, La tazni, you don't perform zina. Like one of the buy-ins of Islam is you don't do this, you don't do this, whatever, don't perform zina. So Hind was a little bit offended by that. She's a lady of great integrity. She comes from great lineage and great family. She's a very proper lady. So she said, Ya Rasulullah, awa tazni al-hurra? What? Why would a free lady like myself ever perform zina? قال فتبسم النبي عليه الصلاة والسلام وهز رأسه. So he smiled and he moved his head and he said, just give the pledge. Just give the pledge. Let's not get into that. Because he knew what was going to come, alayhi salatu wasalam. He knew that one day it wouldn't be as clear cut as it is to you. That yes, a hurra would come and somehow give herself like that. Or a hurr, because a man who was hurr would never do that either. Al-ahrar, the Arab, you see that the free people, the nobles would never perform this action. Only people who are enslaved would do this. So it was seen as a low act, right? So the Prophet ﷺ would just say, just give your pledge that you don't do this, because this pledge is not just for you, it's going to continue for decades, for centuries to come. People will continue to make this pledge. Because he knew what was coming, alayhi salatu wasalam. You find that all through his hadith. وَرُبَّ حَامِلِ فِقْهٍ إِلَى مَنْ هُوَ أَفْقَهَ مِنْهُ. So learn. Yes, you have the capacity of understanding from what he taught, alayhi salatu wasalam, maybe even more than the people who heard it. I'm not saying that you're going to be, but I'm saying that you have the capacity of it. The potential is there. They would actually be disappointed in you if you didn't understand more of them. If I'm a teacher and you're a student and you don't understand, you don't end up learning more than I knew. If you don't end up knowing more than me, I'm disappointed in you. That means the tree of knowledge is getting smaller. That means I failed you. If I educate you and now you don't know more, as much as I do and more, because then I failed you. You didn't do a good job. So the Sahaba, they gave us the knowledge, and then the Tabi'een gave the knowledge to Tabi'een. They kept on coming to us. We have to today be more knowledgeable. Like we have to know more, and we have to use that knowledge appropriately, or else we are failing them. We're failing them. Okay. You have the Prophet ﷺ said hadith. So Muslim wrote his Sahih, and then Nawawi wrote Sharh Sahih Muslim. And then Al-Maziri wrote Al-Mu'lim fi Sharh Sahih Muslim. And then Imam Al-Mizzi wrote Ikmal Al-Mu'lim fi Sharh Sahih Muslim. And then Al-Qadi Iyad Mukmilu Ikmal Al-Mu'lim fi Sharh Sahih Muslim. And then it keeps on going. And they ended up with 25 volumes at the end of just explaining something that was maybe a volume at the beginning. Why? Because that's how knowledge goes. It keeps on getting better. It gets bigger and it expands. That's what he wanted from us, alayhi salatu wasalam. He didn't want us to be less knowledgeable, he wanted to be more. And if we didn't, we are a disappointment as a generation if we don't know more. We'll never have the piety of the Sahaba because we couldn't be there at that moment that he's saying these things. We can't go back and stand there with him. We can't be with him on Badr and Uhud. So that piece is gone. That ship sailed. But you can learn more. That's the purpose of you being here, is to learn. And the final piece, the Prophet ﷺ would say, وَقَدْ تَرَكْتُ فِيكُمْ مَا إِنْ اعْتَصَمْتُمْ بِهِ لَن تَضِلُّوا بَعْدَهُ أَبَدًا كِتَابَ اللَّهِ وَإِنَّكُمْ سَتَلْقَوْنَ رَبَّكُمْ وَسَتُسْأَلُونَ عَنِّي فما أنتم قائلون فقالوا بلغت وأديت ونصحت فقال اللهم فاشهد اللهم فاشهد اللهم فاشهد. His final piece, the Prophet ﷺ would say, indeed, I left amongst you that which if you hold on to and you'll never go astray, you'll never get lost. The book of Allah. Hold on to the book. Hold on to the Quran, and you'll be fine. You'll never go astray. And indeed, you're going to meet your Lord, and you're going to be asked about me. That's what he's saying, alayhi salatu. One day you'll come, you'll meet Allah, and He will ask you about me. So what is it that you're going to say? Sallallahu alayhi wa sallam. The Sahaba had no idea how to answer this question. The people were standing there were confused. Are we supposed to, what do you mean? We're going to be asked about Him? He's going to be asked about us, alayhi salatu wasalam. What do you think of us? So they ran into the crowds, and the crowds started to yell, بلغت الرسالة أديت الأمانة نصحت الأمة كشفت الغمة جاهدت في الله حق الجهاد. And then 100,000 people who were quiet are all yelling at the same time. بلغت وأديت. You did your job. You exhausted. You tried your best. You gave us everything. And he would stand there, alayhi salatu wasalam, with tears running down his face, saying, Allahumma fashhad. Allah be my witness. See? Allahumma fashhad. If he's worried, alayhi salatu wasalam, about how well he did his job, if he's worried, then who here has a green card not to be worried? Like, who here has the bravery to say, I'm not worried, I did well? If he, alayhi salatu, is standing there I need to know what you're going to say. What are you going to say? And the Sahaba were like, what do you mean, Ya Rasulullah? You gave us everything. I want to hear it from you. What are you going to say? Ballaght. Khalas. Good. So when the Prophet ﷺ is standing in front of Allah, Allah will ask us, how did he do? Ya Rabb, ballagha wa adda wa nasah. But then when he asks him ﷺ about us, I'll end with that, inshallah. Subhanahu wa ta'ala, bihamdik, shadu an la ilaha illa anta astaghfiruka wa atubu ilayk, wa sallallahu wa sallam wa barak ala nabiyyina Muhammad.